Member Carter, Robert Carter, is out of town this evening and not with us. And Member Todd Garner is expecting the birth of his first grandchild. So he wasn't going to be here this evening. Anyway, we do have a quorum. And so it's 6:07, and we'll call it to order. And we'll go ahead and open in prayer and do the pledges.
All right, thank you, Jesus, for this day. Thank you for your Son who died for our sins. Thank you for this county and its beauty and the people that reside here. We thank you for everyone in this room, all the people who have fought hard over the last months. We pray that you would heal fatigue and that you would give everyone the strength they need to come through this on the other side victorious. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. All right, let's do the American pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And to the state of Texas.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas,
one state, under God, one and indivisible. Okay, we've got one speaker signed up, Jessica Hall.
Do you just want to pass these around? Yeah, that's fine. Okay. And then I just one of each.
Got an extra, please.
Should be 5 of those. Jesus. Actually, I do have extras since everybody sees.
Okay, so the first one y'all probably already looked at, it's the Van Zant County moratorium. It's been going on now for 4 months strong. They based it on factual evidence, codes that can be acted on now, especially for the batteries. I think it can be applied to our moratorium. I think maybe we should look at the Van Zant model more than the Hill County after they had to rescind theirs to the lawsuit. So that is what the big packet is. You'll notice 3 and 4, which are highlighted. Compliance with current and anticipated state of Texas directives, including executive actions of the governor addressing prohibited technologies, critical infrastructure protection, and foreign adversary influence. So I think that applies both to the buses and it actually applies to the components coming in for the data centers. So if you're going to do a moratorium, I suggest maybe incorporating some of the things that Van Zant County has, because so far it's been the only lasting moratorium that's gone through. So the other 2 pages I did break down and used AI, so please take them with a grain of salt, but they are based on a summary of what Van Zant County has done with their moratorium, and then it's the other one is an example of what you could maybe possibly add to your moratorium since you're considering putting power plants on there. Power plants are very hard to enforce a moratorium on outside of subchapter K, which is being ignored by our county right now. So I found Fire Code NFP 850, which has been upgraded this year from recommended to standard, though it has not been state mandated, unlike NFPA 855, which is mandated by the state and which is also listed in the Van Zant County moratorium. It's how they are able to enforce theirs, part of the reason. So you can just look through. Also, I don't know if y'all have done so, but for your moratorium, you need to get documentation notarized by the specialists like Dr. Wolford, who have come up and testified. You need to get testimony from these specialists, you need to get it notarized, and you need to have it available for your moratorium to go through so you can have a legal basis to defend it. So they have some examples in here. I believe it's called, so you can look at the Schedule 1, which is a press release from Attorney General Ken Paxton, launches investigation into the use of CCP-aligned tech products in critical infrastructure, which definitely applies with all the things we have going on today.
We had that mentioned in our moratorium.
Okay, great.
LIPSA and CAP, and the
Okay.
LIPSA and SIPSA
And
regulations.
that's what I was hoping, because I didn't know what y'all had in your whole moratorium since I couldn't read through it.
Yeah,
So
okay.
if it's a repeat, apologies. They had someone, I can't remember who it is, sorry, I'm not very prepared today, but I just wanted to go ahead and give y'all some examples to go off of and maybe things you wanted to add, since the Hill County moratorium didn't pass. So,
What is, so how did you, so you were talking about how they were able to incorporate NFPA 850 even though it wasn't state adopted, so how did Van
so they incorporated the NFPA 855 for the batteries.
Okay.
The NFPA 850 has not been incorporated anywhere, but I thought it might be something to look at since
Oh, okay.
you guys are adding, or we're looking at adding power plant infrastructure in the moratorium. So that would fall under the 121 health code. So it would be,
Okay.
fall under the same health code as what was used for the 855, but maybe it's supplemental, maybe you can't use it. 855 is a lot stronger, but it's just something to look at.
Okay. And which of these, which part of it was AI generated?
So, just the two.
Oh, these two things
Yeah.
here? Oh, okay.
These two, yeah.
Okay.
So that's why I don't know exactly, 850 hasn't been used anywhere since it's not state mandated.
Right, right.
So, I don't know if that could just be something in there added. I'm concerned about the power plant unless you can get them to enforce the subchapter K. So that's my only thinking. I'm just trying to dig through anything.
Okay.
So,
I really appreciate all your research that you've done in pulling this together
yeah.
and the highlighting and everything.
Well, I was highlighting in the car, so, yeah. Yeah, I think I hit on the most, and then y'all can just read through, see if there's anything, you haven't looked at before, examples.
Right.
And then, you said is there no way to read through y'all's draft of the moratorium, or y'all are getting to that
No,
later?
it should have been linked in the minutes from February 10th.
Okay.
Yeah, and it'll be linked on the backup on there of the commissioner court minutes. I think it was the
Okay.
10th of February, and then possibly again on that second court in February.
Okay.
But if you can't locate it, let me
Okay.
know. I'm happy to.
Yeah,
share
I
it.
think I have seen that link actually, but I didn't know if y'all had updated the draft since then.
We did work on 2 meetings ago, drafting.
Drafting a different, we did, that's right, we did.
And maybe we can talk about it.
Yeah.
Oh, also, I was going to ask if y'all were going to recommend to the county that they actually hire a professional consultant, such as was talked about by Dr. Wolford. He mentioned how the author of 855 actually was consulting for Texas counties and making sure that the battery storage compliance is actually happening. I think that we really need that in this county.
I will, I'm certain he'll be for it on Tuesday
Yeah.
and can talk about it. Are you going to be here on Tuesday?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'll try.
Thank you. Thank you for everything you've done, all of y'all. I appreciate it. Want to do it? Thank you. No, you're ready. You can go on it. Thank you, Tim.
Okay, since I wasn't taught, my name is Kenneth Mitter, for you people who do not know me. And this is not specific to the Development Commission right now, but it depends on what happens on Tuesday in the Commissioners Court, because there is on the agenda for the Commissioners Court to discuss putting a development coordinator position in through the end of the fiscal year. I don't know what the duties of that development coordinator would be. I'm assuming that that would be to assist in Clint Head's department as different things come to him, different applications for permits and things like that. It may be coordinating with the Development Commission and the Development Board, Department and the commissioners. I don't know exactly how they're talking about doing that, but I would try to get you guys to stress the commissioners to do that. There's not enough being done in the development department to take care of the business that is being, coming at the county for several months. So that's all I have.
Are you going to be there on Tuesday?
Oh, yes.
Okay. All right, does anyone else want to offer some open comments?
I'll offer a comment. Do I have to go up there?
Yes, and then fill out a form for me when you're done. Let them slip.
I'm Slater, Pecan Plantation. Good to see you. The only thing, with respect to what the last gentleman mentioned, is, and maybe it's been already referred to, is you need a job description, don't you? And it would seem to me it is sensible to ask, before anything is done on a number 2 or secondary position, let's get a job description. Let's find out what this person is tasked to do. Would also be good to know what the first person was doing, and in that regard, kind of sort out the various responsibilities. It's the only way to run an organization, so I think that's very important. And I still want to point out to this commission, I have not heard yet whether Hood County approved or did not approve Apache Hills. I still have never received a response. And it would only be courteous, it seems to me, to have some kind of a response from someone. And that's all I have to say.
Bob, have you done a PIR request or anything like that, or anything related to Apache Hill to the county?
I thought about it. Let me give it a little more thought. If I could.
That would be my suggestion, is to do a PIR request, and you're welcome to submit it to me and
Okay.
email it to me, and, ask for anything related to the project, the Apache Hill project, any communications related to it, all of that. And I don't know that ever actually came through the process of the
Okay.
county.
I don't think it did, but that, I think a PRI request would make a lot of sense. Can I just take the form, can I communicate with you then digitally, online, that is, and make that request?
I will accept your PIR request right here and now.
Okay, good, good. I'll sign off on it. Thank you.
Set precedent there, guys.
Can I have a form to?
But if you want to jump up and fill it out later, that's fine. Okay. I'm glad you made it.
I'm Joanne Carcamo, and I'm a Somerville County resident, but I've been following this from the very beginning. And I just want to make a quick announcement that really relates to this. Protect the Biloxi is donating a charter bus to take Hood County and Somerville County residents to the Natural Resource Committee meeting in Austin on Tuesday. So if anybody here is interested in going, the cost is free for you. And we will be leaving Hood County Tuesday morning at 6 a.m. from the Brazos Drive-In. And then we'll be stopping in Gleveros to pick up there about 6:15 a.m. and headed to the Capitol. I know I've heard probably all of you speak between last year, October, and now publicly, but I really encourage you all to sign up to speak in the Capitol to the people that actually have the power to make a difference.
Thank you.
You got it, Harriet.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, unfortunately, that's the same day as Commissioners Meeting.
I know. We've got to split and conquer that, yeah.
Yes.
So, I have a comment.
Yeah, come on up. And then fill out your form afterwards.
So my comments pertaining to the role of an assistant in the development department or coordinator, and it seems to me that there are going to be a lot of different transmittals required between the development department and the development commission, as well as the commissioners, going back and forth, and with professionals. Because if you take the concept, plan, conditional approval checklist, most of those items require professional review in order to validate them or determine whether or not they've met the criteria or they're acceptable or that the proper protocol was followed in preparing that report. So I think that the development coordinator has to assist in shuffling those documents from resource to resource and having a checklist procedure that, using that software, I don't recall the name of it, to track our documents, because we have so many projects that are going to be in that process. And we have to remember that even though they submit something under the conditional approval process, it may not be adequate. It may not be correct. And so we're going to have a lot of documentation as to where that document went and who reviewed it and who signed off on it, et cetera. And I think that coordinator needs to probably fulfill that role.
That's a good comment. My understanding about that software was that it was paid for, but then
Never implemented.
never implemented, and then there was the decision that it wasn't going to be used, and therefore the renewal or to keep the license going, it was.
Right, so typically on those software packages, you pay an upfront fee,
Yes.
and then you pay an annual maintenance fee.
Right.
And so if they didn't renew, I'm sure that there could be a negotiation that says, we never did set it up, how about we just start off anew with our maintenance fee? So that could be an action item.
Okay, that's a good idea. I think anything that could help track the process obviously would have been a huge improvement.
Well, we can use an Excel spreadsheet for that.
That's true,
but,
yeah.
that software would be far better because, you have to know who it's going to go to. A document needs a routing sheet. So every project should have a routing sheet. First it goes here, the Development Commission reviews it, they make a recommendation, it comes back, and the Development Commission said, well, we need to send that out to a civil engineer, we need to send that out to an environmental engineer, we need to send that out to Freeze and Nichols, whomever. So I think it's very, very important because we're going to be relying on outside professionals. We don't have professionals on staff. So we have to contract for those services in order to protect the county going forward.
Are you planning, you're going to go down to Austin, right?
I haven't decided just
Okay.
yet.
Well, these are great suggestions, so if you're not here on Tuesday, I'll make sure that they get shared.
I can be here on Tuesday. The fight is not over.
No, I know.
That it's definitely not over. And I really am happy about what's going on with Austin and the fact that we're being heard and that a lot of nice experts are coming forward and people are really getting out there in large numbers. But we still have to tend to the home fires because 231K should not be ignored.
I wholeheartedly agree with you.
Okay,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Thank you, Diana.
If they approve this,
Absolutely, come on up and then fill out a form.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Oh, I didn't sign it. Sorry.
Hi, I'm Kim Burton. Some of you know me. I just wanted to make a quick note to you guys, but also to a lot of people out here that Saturday at the protest or peaceful assembly on the square was very successful. They had a car show that day, so the square was very busy. And we had a lot of concerned people stop and ask us questions. Just in the short time I was there, it was very hot. And the few people that came to volunteer are so dedicated. And I wanted to thank you guys for everything you're doing ahead of time. Because there's a lot of people that are really, thinking about you. And there's a lot of citizens that need the information. They're still very interested and sometimes shocked to hear about it. So we can't assume that because we all know that everybody knows. And we have to keep talking about it and keep sharing the information and just keep our spirits up. We've been, just as a family, been going through this for, I don't know, 3-4 years now? Cindy knows. And we're going to end up with the best lithium facility right across the street from us, like Matt and others. So if you guys can volunteer, they need volunteers to come and hold signs up and just stand there and be present. So, thank you.
You all did a protest this past, I was out of town, but it was this
On
past Saturday?
Yes.
And then are there any other ones planned in the
Yes,
future?
they're doing it every other Saturday, and
Okay.
they're posting it. But I just wanted to put a personal note in there so that people they need help.
So not this Saturday, but the next, which I think is the
Not
27th.
Father's Day weekend, but
The
the following.
27th,
Yes.
I think that's the 27th.
And they also are going to have the petition out there. I think the city petition had a certain date that they had to finish it by,
Okay.
but they'll have the county petition. And, there's a lot of the same people helping, but it was hot. And even if people could come for 30 minutes or an hour, like I did, hold up a sign and just participate any way you can.
And what time are they asking people to show up on this next planned Saturday?
I'd have to check on that. I think they're trying to keep the same time, and last week was it 10 to 2?
10 to noon. 10 to noon.
10 to noon, okay.
Okay.
And she was one of the ladies, and she has T-shirts to sell too, so that's a T-shirt.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that wanted to speak? Any comments? Okay. Thank you all very much for all the information. Okay, at this time, we're going to move on to the business, and we need to approve the minutes. Have you all had a chance to review the draft minutes from our last meeting?
Yes.
Okay, I will go ahead and entertain a motion.
I will make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Long to approve the minutes and a second by Gary Davis. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries 3-0. All right, our next item of business is to receive an update on Freeze and Nichols regulations process. And so I'm going to ask Gary Davis to go ahead and handle that.
So Freeze and Nichols is our engineer that is working with the county to update our prehistoric strategic plan that is from the year 2000, which is quite a while ago. And so there are 4 phases to what they have been proposed as a scope of services, but only a partial portion of that contract has been let at this point. And so they're preparing some documentation. So I'd just like to just kind of quickly do an overview of what that scope included. And in phase 3, it says to develop an updated county strategic plan to replace the 2000 strategic plan. Hood County's 2000 strategic plan should be updated to reflect current growth patterns, infrastructure conditions, and community priorities that have changed significantly over the past 2 decades. So they have a good mandate, and they understand that we are working from behind in dealing with the new issues that we're all facing. So the next section that they are working on is to develop a targeted interim update to Section 1 development permit regulations to address near-term development pressures. For example, large-scale data centers, high-demand industrial uses. And so if you look at their framework for that effort, in response to the time-sensitive development of pressures and public concern, Friesen Nichols will support the county preparing targeted interim update to the Hood County Development Rules and Regulations, Section 1 Development Permit Regulations. This interim package is intended to provide near-term regulatory tools which the county, while the county completes phases 2, 3, and 4 and undertakes a comprehensive modernization of Section 1. So those interim amendments are the creation of a defined category for high-demand non-residential industrial facilities, including large data centers, and associated application requirements. Water supply standards requiring documented proof of available service from a centralized water provider and confirmation of capacity and commitment to serve. Groundwater limitations for high-demand uses requiring centralized service where available, requiring additional technical demonstration and mitigation measures when groundwater is proposed. Wastewater standards requiring centralized wastewater services where available and or enhanced on-site performance demonstrations as applicable. Enhanced adequate public facilities, findings, requirements, roads, drainage, emergency access, tailored to large-scale industrial campuses, and administrative tools needed for implementation, application checklists, standard conditions, and review of workflow updates. So all of these things are, to me, represent a way forward that is addressing a lot of the things that we are stumbling through right now because we have no framework, we have no guidelines, we don't have any things to hold people accountable to. And so the update that we received, it relates to the timeline for what they're going to be presenting. So Friesen Nichols formally kicked off their strategic plan and development regulations update project on May the 4th. Since then, we have been reviewing the county-provided materials and preparing the first draft of both work products. Our current near-term schedule is as follows. June 26th, Friesen Nichols will send the county the first draft of the updated strategic plan and the first draft of the development regulations amendment text. Mid to late July, we anticipate holding a draft work session with the county to review the materials, discuss comments, and confirm direction before moving towards the adoption process. So you and I can work together to find a date that works best for the county. And then in August, we anticipate presenting the draft materials to the Development Commission and the commissioners. The June 26th submittal will include two draft documents, the draft strategic plan and the draft development regulations amendments. These will be intended for county review and discussion with the July work session, providing an opportunity to walk through the key recommendations, policy questions, and proposed amendment language. I've included a screenshot of the cover page and the table of contents so that you can see how that the plan looks and what it will look like. So essentially they're moving forward, and I believe they are diligently addressing the issues that we are finding to be as part of the scope of work that they have been has been approved for them to work forward from. And so we just need to be prepared to move forward quickly with these work sessions and things like that, so that we can move to that adoption phase, which is the final phase, as quickly as possible, so that we can have these things ordained in our system, so that these people cannot steamroll us the way they have been because we have had no regulations in place. There's a question in the back.
Sure.
Who's going to review all this?
The strategic plan?
Yeah, is there a committee, somebody formed with various backgrounds that knows what
Well,
these
this
materials?
is a professional engineering company.
I understand there's a timeline, meaning that they're going to be sending things to somebody, to the commission, I assume.
Well, they'll be drafting their recommended regulation changes. We'll have to do public notice in the paper, and then they'll go before the commissioners court, but
So it won't go to a committee before that? So
Well,
that somebody
we'll-
else has an opportunity to review and
There-
generally see if everything that should be included is included?
Well, I know one of the sessions that they're gonna have is gonna be a public input, but that is the desire of this commission, is that we will be looking at that and having public input, and then also.
There are a lot of technical documents, I understand, being submitted with this, and that requires somebody on the other side to be capable of reviewing a lot of technical documents, in addition to identifying things that should be there that are not there.
Okay,
And I'm not trying to be difficult, but I think there's a lot of talented people in this town, of very highly technically skilled people that could probably help. I don't know if there's an idea of where you may form a committee that's going to take this and review it and say, these appear to be acceptable for the county from a technical standpoint. I mean, there's always a legal standpoint, but from a technical standpoint.
Okay, and I would just respond that the county, it has spent is spending some money to Friesen Nichols, which is a professional engineering firm with engineers in all facets of specialties. This is what they do. They
Yep.
draft regulations for municipalities and counties.
I used to work for those guys, so I'm just telling you, there is the other end of people reviewing what they produce.
And I hear that, and that is the plan as well. When Daniel Harrison was here at one of our meetings and expressed that he does want to have public input. So there will be that opportunity for people to review it.
So the path forward to reviewing this is through the public.
They're going to have public meetings, yes, and put out there. And obviously, there are things that have come up, like this Hill County checklist that we want to look at, that I'm going to provide to them to say, are these things we can incorporate as well? We want to make sure in doing this process that we get everything. We don't want to have to come back, and say, oh, we forgot this. So, yes, the public input is tantamount to making sure that we address everyone's concerns in this community.
So to phrase it a different way, is there going to be a red line process prior to the public input meeting?
That I don't know, but that's a good question, and I will ask on that when we do that.
So, a couple things, we tie some of this together. This development coordinator position, which is being discussed Tuesday, it was mentioned a position description. What would be ideal is to get one of these technical experts, whether it's an engineer, or, all these talented people here, whether they even want this position. Some of it will be administratively to move documents timely with clarity, but it'd also be nice to get somebody to raise their hand and say, if the Commissioners Court passes it, to step into that role. In continuing, when you get it on the 26th, I don't know where it's going, but we don't want to get lost in the county email system that we've seen happen in the past. So you're going to be looking for it.
They communicate with me.
Okay, so you'll get it. And then at that point, will the public have it online so they can look at it for this mid-July?
I'm happy to do that and make sure that it gets out there.
And then if we could just get a couple of people, this gentleman referring in the back, and for the most part, we know who those people are by name.
Right,
Get them to weigh into this.
I agree.
And then by mid-July, yes, sir? Did somebody say something? I thought I had some input. Yeah.
Mark,
Go ahead.
compliment.
No, you're bringing up good points.
Right, there's a window of time between the delivery of June 26th to mid to late July, which they anticipate holding this workshop. So there is a review period. So what we need to do is focus on optimizing that review period and get as much information as necessary to make so that we can have a good set of red lines prepared for when we have our work session.
And
So
our
I think
workshop
that's
is a really great way of doing it.
Yeah.
Getting enough people together
So the proposal that I'm hearing is that between June the 26th, the receipt of the interim report or the draft report and the mid to late July workshop, that we have an internal commission workshop with our subject matter experts within our domain, and we collect that data so that we move forward with the comments from our group.
And
Yeah,
that would be,
you may want to have some people that we address, people with given experience and where they say, okay, because I'm assuming it's going to be a lot of documentation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you want to have it organized before all you get this flood of documentation. You have people prepared to know what they're looking at.
And
And that may take one earlier meeting.
And I would also suggest that we do a comparative analysis between what exists already and the changes that have been made, the strategic plan the way it is today, and what's being proposed, so that we understand what the changes are going to be, and we can redline accordingly.
so I have provided Friesen Nichols with the Word version of the development permit regulations, so they are preparing their red line of what they're changing, so we can see that. And then they also have our very old strategic plan. And so I guess just what I would anticipate is that we could have a special called meeting, maybe a couple of special called meetings. Maybe we do a Saturday, you know, where more people can show up and do that, where we can get that public input and everything. I know how important this is, and I do. I want everyone to be able to.
Yeah, we got one shot at it. We need to do the right
We
thing.
need to do the right thing. I
I
agree.
want to also bring up that it's the strategic plan, the development regulations, the master thoroughfare plan, and the Hood County Flood Protection Order.
All need to be.
All of
there.
them have to be part of this, because the master thoroughfare plan designates which roadways are certain A type, B type, and the type of road corridor development that can take place on those thoroughfares.
Right.
So you have to include all of them, and I think that Friesen Nichols is aware of all that because of the initial work product that included that when they did that study back in the beginning.
So also, Friesen Nichols said the night they were here, and some of these folks may have not heard, they've been listening to these courts. They've been listening to the Commissioner's Court, so they know what some of the public view is going into this. But I do think, if I may just finish my thought, is get a couple, 2 or 3 of these subject matter experts that we know, Chesky and Kurt and
Dr.
Andy.
Wolford.
Maybe this gentleman in the back that's already teed up, so they know when this hits, they can start looking at it. And they can either look at it in sections, I don't know how long it's gonna be.
I don't either.
You know, Matt Long needs to look at it in sections and start redlining it, and then when you come to the meeting, it's not all we're sitting down looking at it. But I think we're all on, sir, I think we're all on the same page. It's just times of an essence. So by June 26th, we need to have a team in place to start reviewing this.
Can we set up some kind of sign-up form for that, where we would have access to everyone's email that wanted to be part of it?
We could do that.
Similar to how we just had a sign-up form when we were wanting to sign up for this commission. Or if we could have something.
Like a Google sheet, sign up.
Yep. And then if people put their email on there, it'll just be part of that distribution list when it comes.
We can do that.
Do we need to make a motion to do that, or can we just do that?
Maybe.
I have a question. Will this go back to when this first started, or is this just going forward? Will all these data that are going to find,
I can't hardly hear you, ma'am. Could
will
you
this go back to the very beginning, or will this start now, going forward? The
Or
ones
they're
that
gonna
are already
be grandfathered in.
approved, are they going to have to apply by this, or are they already in the works?
It'll be going forward. The adopted
So
change-
Fort Spucky and all those ones that
they got in under the old regulations. It was the same thing when we went from the 50% to the 10% lot coverage.
That's what it's.
They had
So
already.
how many more are going to apply after this?
Well, I can tell you on my own personal knowledge, I'm not aware of any other projects having come into the county since we reduced the percentage. So I consider that a win, but we're fighting the ones that came before, unfortunately.
And that's why the people still need to come to the Commissioners Court and speak out, because there's some of us believe that there's not enough specificity in these concept plans and good business strategies that support approving these. And we've got to convince this group up here that they need to slow down and not approve these so rapidly. Even though they've got under the wire, some of us believe that their business plan isn't suitable for us to accept it in Hood County. You got to convince these people. So I would encourage people to still come. Honestly, we're seeing a diminished number of people show up, and we need to fill this place up. I mean, I heard the number is 500 in Glenrose. Monday night?
Tuesday
night. We need to fill this place up. People are starting to fade away. Now, I'm hearing it in the streets that we've already lost. Well, I don't think there's anybody that's dug in on this that's really been as involved as many of us in this room. We haven't lost. I think
I agree, we have not lost.
we
Could I ask just one question?
We are. Now,
I'm sorry, just one question. I would like for someone to answer in this freeze and whoever, if the subchapter K that we're talking about, that we're saying they're ignoring, if it does not apply in this circumstance and situation, when would it ever apply? Yeah, that's my question.
I think one of the issues in my mind is that the Development Commission and Freese and Nichols really never reviewed anything that came from these project proposals. We were not in the loop. And this next meeting, they're going to go into executive session about settling with Red and Yellow or settling with Pacifico. Now, I don't know if that's acceptable in my mind. So we have to get into the details on all of these projects. If there's anything wrong with the projects, we have to surface that to the Commissioners Court. And we cannot do that if we're not going through every single page and documenting the pros and the cons and the issues and the development criteria and things like the Clean Water Act. Are they adhering to the Clean Water Act? How are they doing that? Etc. Because in political subdivisions in the state of Texas, the county being one, the BRA being one, Brazos River Authority, we don't have our own environmental regulations. All of the political subdivisions in Texas use the Clean Water Act. They use the Endangered Species Act. So we have to review everything extremely carefully, especially with our flood control protection order, etc. And that is a function that has to begin in a very detailed manner, even if we're sending it to outside resources for certain parts of it.
That's moving forward with these new regs. But also, you could apply those same, don't jump on me. You could apply those same codes that you've referred to, and she's been referring to it at the Commissioner's Court. They can apply it now to reject these.
We must apply it, because if there's a federal law, we have to use it. And Gary, you're nodding your head, so I'm going to turn it over to you.
No, I'm just saying that in phase one, which they're it's being implemented, whatever, but it says prepare strategic growth approach report and gather Commissioner Court and public input on growth management priorities under Texas Local Government Code Chapter 231, Subchapter K. So they have that as part of their scope of work in one of the phases that they're going to be reporting on. That is not what they're working on currently from a standpoint of the defined parts that have been accepted and that they have been funded, but it is part of the proposal.
Yeah, the regulations they're working on do apply to subchapter
They
K.
absolutely do.
And this lawsuit is, they're saying they fall under 232, which is subdivisions.
Right.
We're saying, the good guys are saying, it falls under subchapter K, which is 231. That's the lawsuit that they're gonna consider on Tuesday on settlement.
Red and yellow.
If they settle and it says it's 232, it's a setback.
It's a very big setback, and then we don't get the answer that we need in the court on 231 sub K.
Well, and I think that this is a very incorrect process that's being followed. I think this should have gone to court.
I agree.
This should have been argued. All of our arguments should have been heard.
Yes, I agree.
And it just depends on whether they have the courage to take it to court. Brian, you mentioned something about some golden warbler or something. correct?
Golden cheek warbler.
There you
Say,
go.
repeat after me. Golden cheek.
Bird, you better
We gotta pull out
Get it
all
right.
stops. And if they've seen that bird over there, which I have confidence they are, slow this stuff down. I don't care what, anyway.
You know,
I'm digressing.
Okay, so the golden cheek warbler relies on habitat that is live oaks, old growth cedar, and elm. So everywhere you look on these projects where you're in riparian areas around creeks, you have that habitat. And you cannot tell me that that bird is present at Dinosaur Valley State Park with the exact same habitat 5 miles away. The bird's not going to be there?
Right.
It's going to be there. So we're going to see things like an environmental study, an endangered species study that says, well, we have the habitat, but we didn't see the bird. Well, have fun with that. So I purchased a little listening device that's battery operated, and you put it out in the woods in that habitat, and it records, and you come back and download it, and it tells you every species that was heard, okay? So there's a way to fight back, and we should be doing that. We should be fighting for this county, and if the bird is not present during the months that they want to start construction, and they haven't shown that they had an adequate study, then we need to put the brakes on and say, wait. You have to wait until it arrives back from Mexico. You have to wait until it's nesting here, then do the study.
Yeah, don't do it when it leaves in.
Yes, don't do the study or before it got here. Don't do the study after it's left. Do the study in the months that we know it's present.
Christine, I wanted to ask you a question. So the centralized water, which is one of the main reasons that Pacifico for Spunky, is that the original regulations? Or
That's in our current regulations.
that's in our current
It is.
regulations?
Central, you have a
Centralized water. So we know that they don't have that.
Correct.
We know that they have applied for the permits.
I think
Yes,
it's
they
on
have.
Trinity,
They
yes.
have applied. Yes, they applied on June 5th. We know that. We know that there will be a contested case hearing. We know that. So, pardon?
For the water permits.
Right, with the water permits, it hasn't gone on a calendar yet with the Upper Trinity. The earliest that'll go on the calendar is June 16th. Most likely it'll be in September. We need to wait for that. We need to listen to the Upper Trinity.
I agree with you on that too, and that it would not be prudent to settle with them, given that, that they're.
You gonna speak on that Tuesday?
Well, I won't be here. I'm in Pet Health. I won't be here, but I can have, I'll tell you.
Send your best man.
I didn't see you sneak in behind.
That would be a very
we kind
good
of-
point to bring up, that
Yeah.
it needs to let it play out.
Yeah, because this is in the regulations.
This is even something that Madisonville said.
Oh,
Remember, I don't know if you were in that court, but, they're gonna have to go to the Upper Trinity and get
Yeah.
water, and then,
so let it play out.
Let it play out, I agree. And I
Yeah.
think that would
Don't
be a
settle.
very good point.
And the other thing is that we have so many of these that are in the tributary water quality district for the Brazos River. And you're talking about the Clean Water Act. You're talking about not contaminating the water that's flowing to the Brazos.
And we just had TCQ just popped in Pecan Plantation. They gave a fine, and they popped the developers in Pecan Plantation because they were letting waters, yes, the runoff go into the Brazos, and they got it. And it's happened already.
What part of Pecan was that? Is it down there where they're?
Land mass.
Yeah, it was against the developer. I don't know the exact location. It was, but you can see the documents if you go.
I mean, it's all there.
Well, I know there's all that on plantation and then also.
No, not, this is went to the river. This is, you know, it's going across Ravenswood.
Okay.
And they're flooding those houses down over there. They're flooding the houses. So this one, this Pacifico, they've got this retention pond right on the river. On the river.
Well, just
Makes a lot of
a
sense.
point of clarification, it's my understanding that permit request to the Upper Trinity from Pacifico is for their domestic water use. That, it's not for their operational use.
Yes, it is. It's for all 4 wells. 3 of them are permitted, 1 of them isn't permitted. There are 4 wells, and they've asked for all of them.
That's for their operational water.
And from what I understand,
Cooling water.
from what I understand is that Pacifico is saying they don't require any water for the power plant, is what I remember him saying. The water is only for the data centers, if I remember this correctly. And, you know, if you remember, they were trying to get water from AMUD, and insisting that they didn't need it. And their backup was the Upper Trinity. And
they were asking for quite a bit of water
they
from
asked for
AMUD.
quite a bit, yes. And the problem is, our regulations, when you're in a water quality district, require centralized water. And if you go and look up what the definition in our regs of centralized water is, it's very specific. It says you have 15 service locations, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, and they've already done themselves in because they applied to TCQ. They got the permit. They're going to have turbines, and turbines, to run a turbine, you have to have water.
The director of development sat here and gave a verbal alternate definition of what centralized water was. And he was pretty certain that a state-approved water system would qualify in our regs as a centralized water system, which it quite obviously would not if you just read the definition. It says nothing about that in our regs. I also heard Pacifico say that they would consider becoming their own municipal district in order to achieve that. And again, I think, I was going to speak on something later, but I'll just say it now. All these things are amazing when you have 3 people on the commissioner's court that believe the same thing you believe, and we currently do not have that. And so we have to do whatever we can right now to push back, to delay, to get us to the new year. I do believe we have a road court at this point. And at one point I thought, maybe these guys are paid off. Matt Mills straightened it out for me though. That's definitely not the case. I do think there is a spiritual blindness, and they are literally believing a lie that it is not up to them to stop this. They think it can be stopped at another place, and I fully disagree with that. I think this is our chance, this is our place to stop it, and we need to be stopping it. And when I got on the Development Commission here, I thought the position was going to be to protect the county from data centers. I now know we're literally trying to protect the county from our own commissioner court. And so I've consulted with some of you on some ideas that I've had, and I'm going to push that idea back a little bit for strategic reasons. But we are still working on lots of stuff, and the fight is certainly not over. And I think we need to continue to show up at Commissioners Court and just make it as painful for those commissioners as possible who do anything other than reject these projects. It is so plain in our regulations that they are based on Subchapter K, and that Subchapter K gives us special authority in this region. And for us to just act like we're any other county that doesn't have that is extremely disappointing. And
Irresponsible.
It is irresponsible.
Yep, it
I agree.
is. It absolutely is. Our commissioners have the ability to make subjective decisions based on whether something is going to enhance the quality of life for residents, whether it's going to keep the rural character of the land, whether it's going to encourage recreation, and whether it's going to conserve the quality and quantity of our county's water resources. And they've ignored all of those points every single time.
Well, I would like to bring up the fact that Matt Mills sent the Attorney General a query about 231, about the strength of 231 Subchapter K as it pertains to Hood County. And there is no reply, and he doesn't expect a reply. So why would we go forward on anything until we do get a reply?
Because at the end of the day, it's an Attorney General opinion. It's advisory.
Okay?
It's not law.
So it still needs to go through the courts.
We need a ruling in court.
The Attorney General, Christine's hit it right on the head. The Attorney General is nothing more than one more lawyer's opinion on this. But it's funny the way they make a big emphasis. We sent it to the AG. Now the AG's dragging their feet to make a decision, which is pretty standard on any type of AG submittal. Now all of a sudden, you know, they're waiting for this AG, but now they're moving forward because the AG is not responding to them. And even if they responded in the negative to us, it's only an opinion by one other attorney. It isn't bound by any type of legislative authority or law, which goes back to what Christine just said. We've got to get this before the court. The sooner the better. And let the courts decide. And then we can appeal it if we don't get a good answer. I think we'll get an answer. I think Matt Long just outlined it perfectly. Rural area, general welfare of the community. I didn't get to write them all down, but that's in our favor. And we're the only county in the state of Texas that has that bullet in his chamber. We just can't get them to.
They're making the fatal error of thinking they're going to lose that case, which there absolutely no reason to think.
There's a fear factor here about being sued, about facing in a court of law, which, you know.
And they're also highlighting, oh, we've spent $152,000 on attorney's fees, and these attorney's fees are going to eat our lunch. Well, what is really going to eat our lunch?
Let me tell you.
Yeah.
It goes through the specific home energy right behind my house. How much do you think I'm going to lose on my house? It'll be a heck of a lot more than $152,000.
That needs to be said in court.
John.
Mark, would you say?
Yeah, so in addition to the local regulations, the Hood County regulations, the state regulations, there are federal regulations. They need to be compliant with federal regulations. I promise you, from the last meeting we had with our PAD friend, who highlighted a couple from that BESS, which every one of these data systems has, they are not compliant with certain federal regulations. Although that should be probably written in our code that they have to be compliant, they should not be able to issue anything that's not compliant.
I agree with what you're saying. I think we're making two separate arguments. If a data center comes in, it 100% needs to be compliant.
So bear with me.
But we need the local.
There are authorities, local authorities, that have jurisdiction. I think you know this. The fire marshal has jurisdiction over fire code, but also the safety code. And anybody proposing a facility, if they haven't provided you with the documentation, it's a dossier that supports the federal and the regulations associated, and do not produce that dossier, they are violating federal code, and the fire marshal has complete right to denying them an operating permit, an occupancy permit, and an energizing permit. We can't overlook those requirements, folks. This is really important stuff.
I understand. I'm going to have to move this meeting along because we have to be out of here at 8 o'clock, and we still want to go over this checklist by Hill County and have some discussion on that. We do have one speaker, Jessica Hall, so if you want to come on up and speak on that, please.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, yes, absolutely, great input.
Yeah, I kind of signed up just in case, probably come back and maybe I'll real talk. But everybody had a lot of great points, and now my mind is going in 10 different directions because there's several things I wish I could speak about. But I just think it should be said that, like, you know, my mom was over there, she said that we've been coming up and speaking at court for 4 years about originally Yellow Viking, which is now transitioned into Rain Lily Solar and Betts, now the addition of Pacifico Spunky, which is the power plant data center. In those 4 years, Subchapter K never once was brought to the court's attention. The development director had access to this. He, even in court, mentioned that he had, I think, the only map showing the water quality districts. But yet, in 4 years of us coming up here, sharing information, digging through regulations, trying to find something that would protect our homes or our families, it was never brought up by him, nor the commissioners, but they said they didn't know about it. The development director knew about it, so why wasn't that ever addressed? He had those 4 years to relook at the regulations, to update them. We would be in a better spot right now, and maybe it wouldn't be a silver bullet to stop the data centers, but we would be way better off in our protections and our regulations if he had, maybe he needs more assistance, maybe they were understaffing his, department, I don't know, but we would have been way better off had those things been addressed, and they had those 4 years to do them, and they didn't do a dang thing. So that's really upsetting. And then I wanted to address the things I think this has to do with Hill County because of, hopefully you'll just let me talk about it. It's kind of things I already said, but I wanted to read this. So, citing the president of the Van Zandt County Green Energy Moratorium, the court invokes its police powers under the Texas Health and Safety Code, the one that y'all have got listed in there, 121.003, to mitigate urgent fire hazards and secure critical infrastructure against foreign technology risks. So, this moratorium from Van Zandt was framed as a necessary clause to ensure compliance with the Lone Star Infrastructure Protection Act. The freeze remains active, indefinite, while the court awaits the state-level investigation into grid security and local fire safety codes. So, and you could include, it says, whereas Chapter 352, Subchapter B, Texas Local Government Code authorizes the county fire marshal to inspect for fire or life safety hazards, and if required or requested, to review building or site plans for those safety hazards. Inspections or review a plan for fire and life safety hazards. That's point number 2. The need for third-party consultant, signed affidavit of expert to support that, and then those are just things that you might want to add into there. And then I don't know what you're going to address. I wish I knew what you were going to address for the whole county.
So, in looking through this checklist, there are things on here that are similar to what we already have, but one of the things that I like that has been a repeated issue with these entities is legal entity ownership structure. This is on the second, what page is this on? Third, fourth page. Just starting with their initial application process. Legal entity ownership structure, parent company disclosures, registered agent information, site control documentation. Now, I know on some of these there have been purchase agreements, but I know that this other information has not been disclosed. And I know that was something on several levels where you did a lot of research on that, because they haven't been forthcoming with, Pacifico was the only one that actually filed a memorandum of lease of their intent to, if their project goes through, that they would be getting that property, but I know some of the others were, well,
So
that's
they
a
don't
private,
even have
that's a
to
private
release the
agreement,
property.
or we have a private agreement, or we're not gonna disclose that. And so I would like to see, those are some things that I would like to see incorporated as part of it. The expected construction timeline and lifespan, operational lifespan, I think is important to have in there. We've already mentioned decommissioning plan in our proposed moratorium that we had. Expected expansion acreage, that's not something that I don't think we currently address that I would like to see in there. On the page after that, the utility corridor map, I think that was a good idea. I know that the ones that have submitted concept plans, they do have identified the groundwater
And this is for
wells.
the checklist that you want to do?
Yeah, this is a checklist. So these are things that I see that I think, okay,
Yeah.
we haven't addressed these. These are things that we should definitely look at incorporating. Existing residents and schools map. That's not something, and I think that's very important. Daycares, yeah, and add daycare centers to
And
that.
nursing homes.
Hospitals.
Oh, nursing homes and hospitals, that's good. I like that. The transmission infrastructure map, a pipeline map, and the railroad map. So I think those are, whether they apply or not, I think they would be good additions of things to incorporate. And I guess my thought is these are things that we would want to, share with Freeze and Nichols. Hey, these are things we want to have.
And
in
they were
these
the
plans.
ones that wrote subchapter K, weren't they?
Well-
Someone that originally worked for
Someone
them?
who's currently retained by Freeze and Nichols.
Someone who's currently working there was.
Can y'all get a signed affidavit from him?
Oh, well, he came to court and spoke
I know,
on
but I'm
that.
saying if you go forward with your moratorium, so you have something documented.
Yeah.
Like documentation, like this is the intent of this.
I think that there would be several individuals who would be willing to sign an affidavit that the intent of subchapter K is valid. It's, kind of like the Four Corners doctrine,
Yeah.
It says what it says. And I think there are some representatives in our legislature who would be willing to do that as well. We know David Cook, who's going to be our senator, came and spoke at our court, and he very much agrees with the authority in subchapter K. And so I think that would be something we could work toward getting those types of things again.
Okay,
To
'cause
support.
I wasn't sure which direction are y'all gonna go over that tonight? Or I don't know if you want to, but.
No.
Can I address one thing
Yeah,
about that?
that's fine.
I wanted to address about the golden cheek warblers you were mentioning and a lot of the endangered species. So I know several of us have been in contact with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. The problem is, so take the Fort Spunky location. The developers are just claiming that the habitat isn't there, and we know it's there. We have photos of it being there. But since they're claiming that there's no habitat for them, they're not doing the environmental assessment study. So they can just come in and what U.S. Fish and Wildlife is saying, and they've said this to me multiple times, they're saying, our hands are tied until they come in and they clear everything and they don't have a permit for, it's called take, for disturbing habitat or for killing those species. So now that development says they're going to stay between 350 to 600 feet away from the bald eagle's nest because that has been confirmed and because they're federally protected. But even though the golden cheek warbler does fall under the ESA, they have a different process they have to follow. And because when the golden cheek warbler was adopted as an endangered species, there was no habitat listed as critical. So some species have critical habitat, and it triggers a process where you do have to complete those environmental studies. Whereas the golden cheek warbler, it's kind of, you have to prove that they're there, which I think y'all are looking into. But it's hard with the Fort Spunky property because it's private property and it's very hard to access. I know some people live over there, but unless we get some kind of drone flying over, it's really hard to document that they're there. You do know that there are some tricolored bats over there. They are a threatened species in Hood County, so that is something, I don't know if they're in that territory, but something that I might look at. So,
There's a mollusk that's also on the list.
yes, the mollusk, and then there's some other species that are of concern, but they're not as protected as, you know, the ones that are listed. But I think that was it. So they're kind of finding a loophole to not have to do the environmental assessments. Now, Amazon, I think, did do some type of assessment, whether it was a field study, I don't know. But if you can prove that there are gold cheek warblers there, you might be able to trigger them to have to actually do a field study and prove whether they're there or not. But we're coming out of breeding season, I think it ends in July.
It's already pretty
It's
much
already
too
going
late.
over, yeah.
I spoke to a biologist this week, and she said we have until the end of July before they leave.
It's tricky. We barely made it under the wire.
You've identified them?
Absolutely.
One thing I want to say about this decommission, I've had elected officials in this county brag about how they'll get a bond for decommission. And my argument is, you go in and you flatten these beautiful hills, and you remove the streams, and you cut all the trees down. Decommission is nothing more than a bond money. You're never going to be able to plant an 80 or 100-year-old tree. You never get the stream back to where it was before. So that's just government talk, we'll get a decommission bond. I'm not saying if we have to, if it goes down that far, we need to get it, but it's not going to save us. It's not going to repair our damage.
Maybe they need to have a remediation clause. You know, like all of we've sold property for for gravel removal. And once they're done, they have to come back in and remediate all of that and do a whole lot of stuff. Now, that still doesn't replace these wonderful trees, but at least beyond just taking the buildings down, they're having to put the land back like it was.
That's in the utility code.
You also don't want them leaving power plants and all of that out there.
We need to get,
Yeah.
we need to get back to our checklist, so.
So I have a comment here, under page 2, where it says escrow funding. It's talking about prior to commencement of the review process, applicant shall deposit funds to an escrow account amount of $150,000 established by the county for that purpose. If the application fee was equivalent to what it was going to cost to review the entire project from start to finish, that would help alleviate burden on the county money-wise. If we knew it was going to take 12 months and our development department plus a person plus Friesen Nichols or whoever, if we had that money identified, this is assuming that we have to deal with it, that could help.
And that's not something we presently have.
Correct.
I don't even know, honestly, I don't have any idea what the fee is.
I think the fee is $0 right now.
I didn't think, and if it's anything, it's probably not very much at all,
Yeah.
I would imagine.
Does anyone know what the price of the concept plan is? I'm pretty sure it's 0.
Yeah, the
So that's
Oh, yeah.
a very good thing.
What it costs or what it's worth, what you're talking about.
Okay.
And, going back to this checklist, Christine, with the hydrologist and that study that Hill has in there. Well,
Yeah.
I think that is important because this is part of the baloney that's going on with Pacifica, Fort Spanky, is they are not talking about the water that the turbines use because by coming in below, they do not have to do the hire hydrologist, and they do not have to present that to the Upper Trinity, and that's the game.
They're setting their benchmark under that.
Right.
Under that
On
line.
purpose. Exactly.
To avoid that.
Exactly.
And then if they go over,
If they go over, let me go
the
over.
penalty's not very much.
Well, here it is. First offense, you go over, is $1,500. Second offense, you go over, you draw out too much water, and they're going to have meters on them, it's $5,000. Third offense, they take you to court, but they don't cut it off. They
They're
don't
still
stop it. They still continue. So It's not good.
Let's see, that was. Okay, so on that other page, utility corridor map, I thought that would be, there's a lot of things in here that we didn't think about that I think would be good to consider. Let's see, right there. The transmission infrastructure pipeline railroad, okay, I mentioned those.
They need to provide their credit, their financial statements. I mean, there's probably a lot of comments on this document I can think of. But, you know, you want to make sure that, number one, they're financial worthy and they're credit worthy, right? I would think you want to make sure you include that in the front line of documents.
Yeah,
With the
With
legal
that,
entity ownership
nothing.
structure.
Well, the other thing too is they're using LLCs to mask who the real customer is.
Right, and so they can go belly up without any ramifications.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I thought this other one, now, we've added things about traffic studies, but I really like this heavy haul route. I thought that would be something good, bridge capacity analysis, a pavement degradation study, and.
So some of the most important things for these are what they call histograms, which is what is their timeline over the life of the project? How much heavy equipment will come in early, and how long over the time of the project will you see that? And you want to see that for manpower, temporary housing, water usage, utility usage, traffic usage. What is that over time? Those are called histograms. So you want to include a long list of histograms so we know when and how this is going to impact the community, right? Histograms are really essential to these conceptual plans.
That's an excellent idea, and to do that, where do you plan to put all these workers in our community?
Okay, I'll have fun with it. I've been through this stuff, so
No, I
hope I can help you out.
I think that's an excellent point, though, is something that we do need to know. Where do you intend to put them all?
Okay.
Exactly.
Bring their trailers.
Yeah.
So they call that a histogram?
Histogram, and you're going to have a variety, there's probably 10 of them that go into a typical conceptual plan, and everybody knows the timeline, when and how often and how much, right?
I have a question. Who's looking at all this at the 35,000 foot level? Because if one gets approved over here and another one gets approved over here, but the timeline is like you're saying, is it all the same timeline? We can't have 12 going at one time. Who's looking at is there not an overarching group that TCEQ or someone who's saying, no, they can not support?
TCEQ only looks at them independently. They don't look at them cumulatively at all.
That's the most frightening thing to me.
It's very frightening because if all of these projects, and this has been brought up in court, if red and yellow are going on, and Amazon, and Pacifico, and of course the solar project, and they're all in that same area, and we all know those areas. There's, if they're all going on at the same time, it's going to be a disaster.
And we're already out of attainment.
Plus, all the construction that's already planned with the road infrastructure
Yes.
improvements.
With the
I mean, you're adding to.
Yes. It's
We
definitely.
keep convincing ourselves in these meetings. Every time we all speak, we just get more and more entrenched and we're on the right side of this thing. I don't know why we can't get these people to listen.
Because they don't understand the impact of implementation. They can say, okay, we have to approve this, we didn't have a choice, or whatever. But the implementation of it is where the county is really going to be hurt.
John said
I have no theory on why they want to push this through. They want things to go back to court to the way things used to be. You come to court and you have about 5 people sitting here and you do the presentation, you run through the agenda, you're out of here by 10:30. That's their dream, I believe.
And that's Santos' words, saying that's the way we've always done it. That's his answer. That's the mentality.
Well, he's the lawman.
And y'all can't get.
There was another thing they had in here that I thought was good, that I think we've overlooked, is this electrical infrastructure and power review, and how the ERCOT and grid analysis. So I think all of that would be something we'd want to incorporate as well.
I think we have a great checklist, and few of these things would make it just
Even better. Did anyone have any comments on this checklist, things that you feel like are essential?
I'll be glad to add mine online.
I
There are a lot of things in there that really need to be addressed.
Christine, I would add one thing, and I'm sorry to talk so much. It's just, you're thinking of things like Mark Lowry said. My husband was working with Congressman Chet Edwards back in the 90s. They were talking about building Lake Bosque, and it was going to be on the Bosque River. And at that time, now I don't know if we could impose something like this, but they had the U.S. Parks and Wildlife and the animals, all of that. They had to mitigate if they took 1,000 acres of habitat to build a lake. They had to go somewhere else and buy 1,000 acres. And you know, it was ridiculous because those animals weren't going to go 1,000 miles away. But they had to do that as part of the Endangered Species Act and all of those things we're talking about. Maybe you could put something in there that if they take whatever size of the property they have that's going to be impacting that habitat, that they've got to go somewhere else and buy an amount of land equal to that size is a mitigation for the wildlife having been impacted. Now, I know it sounds crazy, but that's the same way they do green energy credits. You know, if you don't use yours, you give them to somebody else. That trailer.
Wasn't that for a public taking, that they were compensating for that?
It
right?
probably was, so I'm not sure how that would work. However, it's the concept or principle is the same. They were taking land that animals used. So just a thought.
So on this here, I can list quite a few things, but they need to have, one big thing is the temporary power, they call it. That period between start and when the facility actually goes live, then you're gonna get into all this stuff. It's that period in between.
Where's that?
They're normally gonna ask demand on our utility company for that temporary power system, and we need to know what that is. Right, so temporary conditions, construction period includes, you know, sewage, stormwater, all those things they call that temporary period, which in this case is probably 18 months. It's not a short period, it's 18 months when they're going to be drawing on the community, and if you have multiple, it's just imagine. So this is where you need to get your all those temporary conditions. You need to know exactly what they're going to require from us, because they're not going to be up and running until this project's up, finished construction.
It's on under the.
I know that this is kind of technical, but on the AWS, they have a private purchase agreement with Vistra for 1.2 gigawatts of power from Comanche Peak Nuclear Power Plant, which is an existing power source to the consumer. Now they claim that they're building additional capacity elsewhere in West Texas, and they're going to have to ship that power in. I think we need to know more about that, and we need to know what the cost impact to our consumers is going to be for the fact that the power that used to be available to the grid for consumers has now been removed from the grid and placed in a private purchase agreement.
Do you have anything on here that you want to comment
I mean, it's technical, it's very difficult, you know, and it's really at a high level, it's really at the PUC level.
It is.
I don't see those people advocating for us, though. The ERCOTs and those, they're protecting their backside. They're not looking at what the ramifications to our area. I just don't see their concern or their, we need to continue to be diligent, not to wait or conceive that they will be our defender or they will support us in these things. I think we need to continue to build our own case.
I know we've included some things about noise mitigation.
Yeah.
Mark, you can offer your volunteer service when they get this checklist.
Got it. I'm in.
You got his contact.
Laura,
And I'm retired to a free charge.
you had your hand.
On the endangered species, buying additional habitat, I think that is part of the Endangered Species Act, and we might just include something about they need to follow the Endangered Species Act, and including that. It probably is more related to takings, but they consider any impact to the endangered species as a taking as well. So,
Okay.
the habitat, yeah. So it's definitely worth checking. And also on the noise mitigation, the noise does impact species.
Absolutely.
And there have been a lot of studies about that, how birds will stop calling if the noise is at a high level. And so we need to understand the impact of noise on species. And then that burn plan, I think that it's not just noise, it's the infrasound. And we're hearing more and more about the infrasound and the negative impact it has on ourselves and on our health.
Yeah, and the walls don't hold with that.
And
Sometimes they create.
we should also
more.
ask,
Yeah, the
as
echo
far as
effect.
the infrasound and the noise goes, we want to look at a population census within a certain radius of that project for not only people, but livestock and other types of breeding facilities. Because if you look at the fact that the Fossil Rim is a zoo, and it is protecting endangered species from around the world, and how far away will that infrasound affect them and affect their endangered species breeding programs? So I think it's very important that we have that information, especially for those projects that are so close to the Hood-Somerville County line.
You want to include smell, by the way.
Pardon me?
You want to include smell on
Smell?
this thing. These plants,
Odor.
believe it or not, can all smell. They've got diesel, they've got their emissions, they've got wastewater, and if it's close enough, you will smell. Everybody's been driven by an industrial plant and say, what's that smell?
And,
If they don't mitigate that, then that's what you're going to have.
and they have evaporative ponds. And in the Dallas Morning News today, there was an article about a 15-year-old who died in a retention pond with the heavy rains. So if they're going to have these big ponds, these open retention ponds and things like that, they have to be safe.
Like a protective barrier that's still.
Yes, they have to be
water.
fenced, they have to be safe.
General things, I don't want to hear it, I don't want to smell it, I don't want to see it. I mean, you could write that as a theme, there's probably 10 of these items.
And
And then the series of checklists.
go back a little bit, Christine, please, to operational lighting plan. We need downlighting to protect our night skies. There is a world-class observatory in Clifton, Texas, just south of Clifton, Texas. And it's associated with the University of Texas. So, you know, they're very careful in Bosque about their lighting to be downlighting and things like that. And we have to be careful about that, especially, you know, perish the thought that any of these would be built.
And I know we've included some things on the lighting and noise mitigation in that checklist that we did get past that checklist. But we can look at that again and make sure there aren't any other things that we should include there with more specificity. I'm not
Okay,
sure.
so
that's
why
in there
would
about
they
the
be
dark
painted in camouflage so they match the landscape and not just glaring white?
Yeah, that best facility behind Rainbow's Promise horrible. The lighting there is horrible. It looks like daytime when you drive by there at night. I'm not sure what Section 404 permits are.
And you know, that affects the birds on migration.
Yes.
It's terrible.
Anyway, let's see.
Yeah, so this is probably one of the biggest areas that's is deficient, is what they call hazard and risk analysis. And there are standards, these are federal regulations that need to be done. They will look at the impact on the community, impact on the people working there, impact on the environment, and the impact on any assets. Those 4 areas, you get a number, a risk number, and there's a whole slew of things that have to happen that are federal regulations. All of those, the authority having jurisdiction, which is our fire marshal, has complete authority to stop a project if they are not compliant. And I can list those, and really, you want to add that to this document, I'll be glad to add it. These are required by law.
Have y'all reached out to the Commissioner Cliff Williams, Van Zant? He's the one that helped with that moratorium.
I believe Commissioner Samuelson had several conversations with him when they were, shortly after they did that moratorium.
Section 404 is related to the Clean Water Act.
Is that what that is, the 404? Okay. I suspected it was under, because it says wetlands and waters.
Discharge of dredged or filled materials, wetlands, whether a U.S. Army Corps of Engineers should be involved. There are tributary regulations.
Right, under our water quality districts.
Everything we're saying, you just give them an F, you reject it. Press on it. Pressing what it is.
People are not, he's just a.
I like this about a chemical inventory. I thought that was good. Spill prevention plan. Hazardous materials response.
So one of the items that's missing on that is containment. So if you go up to this chemical storage, fuel storage, spill prevention, it's containment. So if they have a spill, it should all be contained. They should be able to contain their entire volume should there be a spill.
So we could say spill prevention plan and
Containment.
the containment plan.
And with that lithium ion hazard assessment, it shouldn't be so narrow. It should be lithium hazard assessment, because there, there's lithium, different, what is it, iron phosphate? Yeah. So just lithium, not lithium ion.
Just take out that specificity.
Any lithium,
Right,
any product containing lithium hazard assessment. You just got to make it broad.
Okay.
Almost all these facilities will have what they call a combined cycle generation, which are a hazard in themselves. There are alternatives to that, but combined cycles seem to be the systems of choice. There are differences to that. There are simple cycle, there are other ones. But every now and then you do see something with the green. But those introduce a whole pile of additional hazards that are not listed. And I'll be glad.
And a lot of them are what are called peaker, where they don't have the second stage.
They don't have to what?
The water stage.
Some monies or something, since we're a volunteer fire department.
I don't know, I'm probably.
They call those,
Probably
for
don't
the
have the right equipment to.
power generation, they're still going to use the same thing, which is a turbine, it's either gas or electric,
To be able to.
and they'll either produce steam or generation. It'll be simple as that. That simple cycle combines that. Well, right now, Troy, I'm looking at 50 of these projects that are using combined cycle. So but the whole thing is we don't know. That's why you want it. What are we getting? And are they compliant?
Will we see the next stage development plan? Kevin Andrews indicated that this is just the first step on the concept that will next we'll be able to see the development plan.
The site development plan, yes.
Will the people and will the Commissioners Court, you guys see that, or is that just something that's
I think that would be public now.
the development director will be able to
If
just?
we get it out. Obviously, we have fought against, there's been delays in things having been received and then actually being put out to the public because they weren't appropriately passed on or things like that, but that should
Yeah, I'm
all
just
be
saying,
public.
what he said, it's like we had the first bite of the apple, now we're going to get another one. Do you think?
But there has been other statements, and I would like a clarification on that as well, because I've heard other statements that say that it's perfunctory. The next step would probably just go through the development.
Right, that's.
Rather than
It's very
director
clear.
versus going through the full court.
Oh, on
In
the
the
site
development
development plan?
So in other words, this bite of the apple
It
was
does say
it, because everything else is just going to be rubber
And
stamped.
everything is.
Yeah, she said it says,
In the development regs, it says a public hearing is required.
now, we just got to make sure they do that.
Correct, correct.
And do we have anything in the regulations that say that a licensed professional engineer, a licensed professional has to review these documents?
That was my big hurdle from when the attorney stood up and said, "I've reviewed the documents." I think that was either malfeasance or potentially
Malpractice.
Breach of-
malpractice. Because as a legal professional, she can't say that the civil engineering components of that report were satisfactory. That's not her judgment to render. And so I felt that was so out of school for her to make that statement and that no one questioned it. That was my big problem with the.
Again, part of the problem is once the public spoke, they don't get to speak again. Now, it got a little bit hairy on the last Commissioners Court. It was a little bit of a free fall. But when she spoke, there really wasn't anybody can't get up and challenge. Now, they can challenge her.
Yeah, but yeah, they're in agreement. They were
None of
doing
what there has
she was doing what they were
engineering
paying her to do.
Do what?
Well, and another point is that she showed up after Blakely Fernandez had worked with the commissioners to establish the conditional approval checklist. Why wasn't Blakely Fernandez from Bracewell still on the job?
Yeah,
Do we know the answer to that?
that is a serious misstep where the information is not clear how those two steps were taken and what the missing link is.
How did
I
that
have a question.
conversion take place? From Bracewell to Bajorquez with Deborah Margell?
Right.
And there was
Because
another,
Decision.
there was another attorney that came with Bajorquez.
Yes, his name's Steve, I don't know.
And he was the guy that was in court.
That was on that hearing in the TRO.
Yeah, he was in Buffkin's court. Yeah. And so what happened to him?
I don't know. I mean, I honestly truly don't know.
I think it's wrong for the county to abdicate the review process to an attorney who is not qualified.
But it goes back to my mind, this development coordinator, it can't just be administrative. We've got to get somebody with some pretty talented skill sets that can come in there temporarily to start managing some of this, whether it's an engineer or water expert, this gentleman in the back, Matt, Kurt, I don't know, somebody that's got.
And I don't know what the plans are on that. I only became aware of that when I read the agenda.
Okay.
So I haven't heard any like.
Well, let me just
Maybe
tell
the
you,
on paper somewhere.
you're gonna pay this guy $50,000 and you want expertise? Ain't happening.
Well, it's going to take somebody it's got the heart into it, that's going to step up almost like a volunteer. It's not worth 50 grand to him or
Well,
her.
I think it's 50 grand for half a year.
No, it's still end of the fiscal year through the end of September.
Yeah.
But from now.
So it's, yes.
So it's 3 months.
Yeah.
3 months. Okay.
Well,
I know you're not paying for
It's a
what
couple
you would
hundred.
normally pay.
16,000 is the budget.
Why did they decide that to be just through September?
Well,
Fiscal year.
fiscal
I
year.
don't, literally, I have no background knowledge on it. If I did, I would share it with you all. only became aware of that when I read the agenda.
So I have a question.
So,
Like, we go to Commissioners Court and we speak, okay? I would like to go to Commissioners Court and ask questions. Is that permitted? Or you can just take your time and say, I want you to answer me?
I have seen, and Mark as well, I've seen people go to the podium and just ask questions and get answers. I've seen that happen.
I think it's, if you do the agenda item, you can ask questions.
Not on the general.
Yeah, in the general
Not on the
comments, they're not
podium.
allowed to talk back at you.
Correct.
But
I've heard the city council say that. But
Well, those of us that you weren't here last Tuesday, it got a little hairy because you just simply asked the question, when did the email arrive? And nobody would answer. When did those documents arrive? Who's seen them? Nobody would answer.
yeah.
If they're not trick questions, but they,
When you saw January, you were asking, why didn't anybody see it? It says January. Good question.
they're still good questions.
Yes,
Unanswered question.
what happened to the development board? So they had the commission, but they also had a development board, I believe, which was more recent, and they disbanded that.
Well, we've known about the Development Commission. There were going to be counselor or consultants, which are people in this room that's going to be able to provide consulting to them. I've not heard of a development board.
Yeah, I saw that it was a couple of years ago under their regulations, but then when I looked into it, it said that they had done away with it. So I don't know if they were calling
Well, the development
calling it a
commission,
different name and that was, but I think it was more of an updated development board.
I'm not sure. I went back through all the old commissioner court minutes. When the strategic plan was adopted in 2000, and they formed a development commission, and under subchapter K.
Yeah.
And I never found any minutes for that commission. I've searched for them. I don't know that any minutes. I can tell you, well, I have to go back and look, but, there were some people that were identified that were on it because their names were, they were appointed to it. But what kind of meetings they had, what they discussed, I don't have any records of that, and I haven't been able to find them. But my understanding, from what I could surmise, is that I think Clint Head was hired in 2018, and then the development commission just went away. And so I think they made that position in the county. He was placed in that. And I think someone told me before that it was like under road ops. There was like a combo development road ops, and then they separated them. But the commission, I just, as I was going through these old minutes, there just stopped being any mention of it.
Yeah.
And so it seemed like that's kind of the way it went.
I think when we look at the tax impact analysis, and you look at all these things, we need an inventory sheet of all their tax ID numbers so that we can research and make sure that we're collecting all of our sales tax.
Okay. All right.
Are you certain data can be taxed like that? I heard something down at the convention that they may start taxing data center proceeds, but you're confident we can tax them?
I looked on the comptroller's website and it says data services. So I'm not sure if the data center construction is sales taxable. However, I did come up with a statistic that says for every square foot in a hyperscale data center where you have a product, their revenue is $20,000 a square foot per year. Okay, so, they want tax abatements for a reason. They're making a lot of money. If you have Amazon Web Services, they're making a lot of money. And they went down to Somerville County and offered them minimum money to operate in Somerville County. We cannot do that.
I'm not aware of any abatement agreements that we've made with any of them.
Right, we need all of the revenue from the sales tax to provide the services and the infrastructure necessary to operate a mega industrial complex that is larger than what the city of Fort Worth is having to manage. And we don't have anything. So if we don't get revenue, how are we going to provide fire protection? How are we going to provide regular sheriff and law enforcement? How are we going to provide emergency services? How are we going to provide all that?
Right, I know, we were kind of talking about that, about that they ought to be able to purchase the equipment or provide funding to the volunteer fire departments for the necessary equipment and tools and apparatuses to.
Training.
I think that.
What I would recommend is where you've got this long list of requirements, and that's what these are, these requirements of, is you have a checklist that says, does it meet basic requirements? Does it need to be, does it fail? Where you actually have a checklist that qualifies their plan against what the community would expect as a bare bone minimum. And then you can start feeding that back. Either they make improvements or they don't make improvements. If they don't make the necessary improvements, then they shouldn't be given a permit, right? There should be that angle where you're going to fight that. But now you've got something that says, hey, we reviewed all this stuff. They don't meet what we would consider the pillars to the community, right? And therefore it fails. And then that would be your argument to taking them back and saying, hey, until you improve this, you're not going to move forward.
They could have acted on that and done that with Apache Hill Best, because the documents they dropped off aren't sufficient for compliance with that, but they won't do anything, they won't act on it.
Our commissioners approved, well, they wouldn't reject a project that didn't even have the right developer name on it. That's item number 1 on our current 10-item checklist.
Yeah.
But you need ammunition. I think you need the ammunition. This would provide an ammunition. Once you go through the review of this, you can address each of these against the pillars that are in the regulation and say, they don't meet our requirements, and here's why. Then you've got a very substantial leg to stand on. You follow me? That I think would be, and it will be tough for anybody, unless they're going to do it 100% right, to meet basic essential requirements for a community this size. These things are so massive, they will struggle to meet something this size. I'm not saying we're trying to reject them.
Okay,
We just make it, ensure that these are the minimum requirements.
And I think we also do a comparison between the capabilities of our volunteer fire department versus the actual requirement to protect a facility of that magnitude.
So if they say the emergency operations plan, if they don't have the adequacy that says we need 4 or 5 fire trucks, right, to combat a major fire, and that's what you're talking about, if not more than that, then guess what? It doesn't meet the requirements, the 4 pillars of Granbury's requirements.
You're sounding extremely
Just talking about one.
That's just one.
Okay, we're going to have to wrap up this meeting. We've got to be out of here at 8 o'clock. We've got to be out of here at 8 o'clock. I greatly appreciate you all showing up and all of the input. Either of you have any closing remarks? Okay, well, just know that we do hear you and appreciate the input, and as Matt said earlier, the wheels are turning. We're thinking about some other things that we can do to help put a stop to these things. Or anyway, it is 7:55. I'm going to go ahead and adjourn this meeting of the Development Commission.
Christine, yes, on Tuesday night, make sure that Mark, yes, I mentioned it. Oh, yes, I did. Yeah. So make sure.
Free, yes.